usually the best way to do it. Instead of watching, participate, and then boom.
I was talking to my Auto Trader rep, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I watch those guys every Friday." He's like, "You're going to be on there?"
Cool.
So, yep, you're crazy.
But he's always trying to get me to do more stuff with him, and I'm just like, "Yeah, dude, you're lucky. You're lucky you have what you have."
Man, we haven't been on Auto Trader in years here at this dealership.
When I first, that was the first thing I did when I looked at everything. When I assumed this role, I was like, "You guys are paying $7,000 a month for Auto Trader? Like, we got to stop that." And
I mean, there's some markets where, you know, obviously it depends on your inventory levels. Our inventory levels are too low to my cost per car would just inflate if I went with too many marketplaces.
Well, there's an interesting contrast between the two of you. And this was something, and I know I've said this a million times in the show, but I found at Checkered Flag, having many different brands from Hyundai to Porsche, that the Auto Trader worked well for the volume stores, but for the luxury stores, Cars.com was far better.
Yeah, that's always been our outcome as well.
Yeah, Cars.com does very well.
I will say in the beginning, like I'm talking, 15 plus years ago, we killed it with Auto Trader, crushing it.
Was that when they had the magazine?
Yeah, that was before dealerships were taking photos of their cars.
I should send you the 1994 video I sent to Alex of my family's newspaper. It makes it look like it was 100 years ago.
Yeah, I remember when I was young, I grabbed those Auto Trader magazines, just sit there for hours and look at cars.
Yeah.
Look for the GTIs and Scirocco's.
Oh, what was the other one? So Auto Trader had the private sales and dealers, and then there was Automart.
Automart, yeah.
Automart was around for a while. I remember that.
Yeah. Here we go, guys. But we can keep talking about Auto Trader and Automart.
Automart was the one that was the first one to do the color, 4-color gloss covers.
Yeah, where did Dominion come into that? Was it Dominion that acquired Automart? Because the Dominion didn't at one point they have a portion of Auto Trader or Trader?
So here's the story as I heard it, and I could be totally wrong.
I don't remember.
So there was a group here in Norfolk. I happen to be in Norfolk right now. So Dominion's in Norfolk too, and Ken Lees, I think, was one of the guys who was involved with it, and they wanted to turn the Auto Trader name into a website, and Dominion didn't have any interest in doing that. They thought the internet was, wasn't going to go anywhere.
We're dating ourselves real quick.
Yeah, and print was the way. So they sold off the rights to the Auto Trader name, so Autotrader.com was born, and I don't know how many years went by before Cox acquired it, and it got under that umbrella. But yeah, Dominion, I don't know the deal they had and the kind of profit they got off of it. But yeah, they retained Automart. They retained Auto Trader, the rag, or the magazine.
Yes, that's right.
And they had they had Boat Trader. And I don't know who has that because that's still around, but that is a real.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that's definitely not a well.
Is
the
it still
website's
print?
not that great. You might as well.
Is it still? I gotta look that up.
I think Cycle Trader's still around too.
Yeah. What about RV Trader?
Boat Trader, #1 marketplace to buy and sell boats.
It might be.
That's Still
We
got
played around
the
with it over the summer just to see what was out there.
yeah. Still uses that font for the logo. The
Yeah,
old
it's
Trader
old.
font.
It's a bit dated.
Yeah.
But
I'm looking for a kayak. When they got kayaks on there.
yeah. I'll tell you about a kayak another time, Jeff. But Hobie,
All right.
that's the way to go.
Yeah. Hobies are freaking expensive.
Yeah, but they're good.
6,000.
Yep. But man,
Oh,
for
they're
a
the
fat
best.
man drinking a beer and in a kayak, it's right here. That's the way to go.
Yep.
All right. Oh yeah. So here we go. Right. Here's somebody who would know about Auto Trader. That's Ed Brooks.
Oh
He
yeah.
Yep. So it was co-owned by Cox and Dominion. It started as Auto Connect. Okay. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah.
I figured someone would chime in.
Well, Justin. Hey, man.
How you doing?
Pretty good, all things considered. So let's talk about you for a minute. Get off of the old days. Although I think we're gonna have to touch on some of that newspaper stuff in order to do it, though.
Yeah, those are my olden days. I come from a long line of newspaper and family business. Spent about 15 years servicing and selling advertising to automotive dealers. Back in 1994, we were one of the first to come up with a classified ads website. And then back 98, 99, we launched the first dealer center for dealers. We had a single rep driving around on Thursdays taking one picture of dealers' vehicles and putting them online.
Now that was a 3.5
Awesome.
inch floppy they were putting those on, right?
Yeah, I actually used to have to take the pictures and scan them into this big machine to get the dots out of them, just so that
For
we
real?
could cut them out
Oh,
with a
wow.
little razor blade and paste them into another piece of paper so another photographer could take a picture of it and run it through a machine. And then that's how we printed the newspaper.
Wow.
But it was the greatest of its time. We had pretty much every car dealer in the state of Connecticut in there at one point. We had over 300 pages. And it was if you didn't have it on Thursday morning, you were nobody.
God, when was the last time a newspaper had more than 40 pages? I picked one up the other day because my mom still gets it. And it's like, man, this thing is so thin.
I think I still have a copy from when it was that big.
So you would actually go around to the dealerships and take the photos?
Yeah, I would go. We would go, and I would go in as the account rep and sales guy, and I would go in and I would see the used car manager at the time, and I'd give him the copy of his ad, and he'd cross out what was sold, and he'd give me new ones, and I'd go out there and I'd take the pictures with my 35 millimeter camera, and then I would go back to the office and wait my 1 hour photo time for them to develop. And then I would get the photos back, mark them all up, and tell the production team where to put the cars and the descriptions. This is
so you were actually taking the photos on film.
Film.
Oh man! So how many rolls of film would you go through at a dealership in a day?
Depending on the dealership, most of the pages was a combination of big photos and little photos. So you would fit 6 big photos and maybe like 8 little photos, 10 little photos on a page. So you'd probably go through a half a roll per dealer.
Okay, so not that bad.
You learn to take more than one picture at the time, because if you tried to do one and you get back and realize it didn't develop, you'd have to travel all the way back out to the dealer to do it again.
I remember lining up the cars for the newspaper, or for we had another local magazine. I forget what they were called. But I remember lining up the used cars because the photographer was about to show up. That was, we didn't have a website at the time, so that was right at the break of that.
So
crazy
right,
times.
back in the day, you had to have you had your Auto Trader rep who'd come out and take photos. You'd have the newspaper rep who'd take photos. You'd have Automart who'd take photos. And then we also
at least another little
floor
local
plan
company
person who would come out and do the auditing and have to look at all the cars. Right. Yeah. Don't miss that.
And then digital took over.
Yeah, that was efficiency at its best.
And then someone figured out the power of a feed. And then you would just feed everybody everything.
Well, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about feeds today and what they're capable of, aren't we?
Yeah. Since I helped work on some of the original feeds pre-internet days, I think I'm very knowledgeable in that subject.
Sounds like it.
So. Well, so now we know Justin comes from newspapers. And after that, Justin, how did you end up at Papa's Dodge?
Well, I used to follow the used car manager around. His name's Jeff Armington, so I used to have to deliver a newspaper to him every Wednesday at the two dealerships that he would be at, because he would like to read the newspaper after the auction. So I had a good relationship with him as a rep, and then he was at the Papa's location down at our second. We had a Papa's Auto House, and he was down there. He was running that with two guys. And then we had our Papa's Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram at a different location up the street. And then when they consolidated, Jeff moved up to the big location. And then at that point, the newspaper business kind of went downhill for me. And I kind of said to Jeff, I'm like, hey, your photos suck. I'm like, when are you going to let me do them? And he was like, you know what? He's like, you're right. Let's give it a shot. So I got in the door as, their inventory photographer. And I got to work with AJ. You guys probably all know AJ.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working with AJ. And then
can we take a quick stop for AJ for a minute? Just say to those who knew AJ Maida.
Yep.
Great guy. We miss him.
Sure was.
And Papa's Dodge, when I first met you, Justin, last year, I think, was when we first talked. It was very impressive of what Papa's had put together between AJ and now you. You had a really good talent pool right there in your market. So
I actually worked with
you
AJ.
guys.
He was at Town and Country before Papa's. So I came in as the photographer. They had AJ, they had a couple of part-time lot kids doing it, and I pretty much cleaned up their used car inventory within a day, and then they had me do their new car inventory. So then I was their photo guy, and then just being there and figuring out my strengths just evolved into one more duty at a time. Turned into working with the ad agencies, and then turned into working with no ad agencies and being it all me, trying to figure out the best way to sell cars.
And that's where you're at now. You are the ad agency, right?
I am the ad agency. I'm the everything, actually. Yeah, I'm the photographer, the ad agency, the executor, the think tank, the CRM guy. If anybody has a problem, they ask me what I think first.
Yep. So
and the photos,
go ahead,
the photos are different too, because I run them through a Photoshop program, which, cleans them up, digitally waxes them, enhances them, and they're usually online within a day, instead of waiting for the traditional 5 to 7 day turnaround from service to cleanup.
Yeah, the digital waxing. I love that. So
What's
are
that?
there any? Yeah, well, it's a filter in Photoshop, but a special thing that Justin built. Is there anything else you do to the cars in Photoshop before you upload them?
Sometimes I'll digitally vacuum them. If there's dirt,
For real?
Do you
we
do the
get
vacuum glides?
yeah, we'll get some cars in from the auction. They'll have the auction stickers on the window. It's actually quicker for me to take it off in Photoshop than it is to take them off with a razor blade. So I leave the stickers on, take them off in Photoshop, and then upload them, and then they'll be sitting in the dealership with the auction stickers still on them, and people are wondering why they look different.
Oh, we added those stickers before you got here, Mr. Customer.
Yeah. I also fix dents and do body work too if needed. So sometimes that gets a little hectic with, that dent wasn't there. No, that was lot damage.
You got Photoshop down, man.
Well, that's where I came from. That's my my newspaper and graphic design background. But
I may have to outsource to you. I said I may have to outsource to you.
Yeah, bring it on.
You could probably sell a Photoshop Actions as a little thing. So if you've built them out as Actions, a little thing that. Anyway, it's an idea.
Yeah, I have the action. The problem is you still manually have to do it. I haven't figured out a way to automate it yet. Haven't really put too much thought into it.
All right. Yeah, you can do some stuff in Adobe Bridge though. Do it.
Yeah.
But all right. Anyway, so before we jump way too far in the Photoshop weeds, so outside of the photos, you're also doing all the Facebook ads, all the Google ads. What else?
Sheesh.
On the marketing end?
I do the CRM equity mining data. I do our monthly newsletter. I do our SEO search on our website, which is basically just taking our monthly newsletter and creating a page and putting it on there as well. I do all of our Google My Business for both parts and service.
What do you use for your newsletter? I know earlier you had mentioned something about using Outsell for certain things, but where do you get your content and such for that? We were using the newsletter. We actually did really well here with our newsletter. We were using one-to-one news. Unfortunately, COVID sort of put a strain in their business and they ended up closing shop. But they would come up with the content. Sometimes I would send them some ideas around content, or if we had something going on here. But I mean, we had a 40+% open rate on our newsletter.
Yeah, we're sitting at about 38% open rate on our newsletter. I pick one for sales, one for service. Like right now this month, FCA is doing the buy 3 tires, get 1 for $1 campaign. So I'm using that as our service special, which little write-up links to our service page. And then for sales, last month we're hiring, because we were looking for a couple new salespeople and some service people, technicians. So it was more like we're growing, we have opportunities, click here to see what's available.
So it's more of an actual sales or service message.
Yeah, I always like to do sales and service just to utilize the program. I don't have to do any message. They'll pre-populate messages for you and just send it out on your behalf. But the set it and forget it thing really doesn't work for me. So I'd rather just take some time to put some thought into it and then come up with something that'll help the dealership.
That's a
Gotcha.
brilliant, using the newsletter to recruit. If you were to say, from a current client base, that's a great idea. We're hiring and we're looking for your son, your daughter, something like that. Does anyone need a first
Yeah.
job? I don't know.
Clean up day.
Yep.
Yeah, and for the viewers out there that don't know too much about Papa's, we're a 70,000 square foot dealership. We have a classic car museum in the back. We have a diner inside. You can come in and get your haircut. Our service center is
Wow.
huge. We have a speed shop that has apparel, Hellcat stuff, Legos. I mean, it's a huge place, and most of our customers know that we're unique. And we've been family owned for the whole entire time, almost 75 years. So it's a nice message to put out there to our customer base to say, hey, we're hiring. You know anybody?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we got
well,
anybody from it, but at least the message got out. But I don't know what I'm doing next month. I'm kind of running out of ideas. Last year all we talked about was digital retailing, not having to come to the store to buy and all that, COVID stuff.
Did you go down that route?
Yeah, we did. We
You
were
made a whole video for it.
we went down this route before COVID. It was actually kind of nice.
What kind of results were you seeing with it? What were you using?
We're using Lumaquote. I don't know, what were we, the 25th dealer to sign up, maybe?
Yeah, you were early.
We were early. We signed up before COVID, so when COVID hit, we were pretty much prepared for it. And the goal behind that was to really, well, I know this is going to sound funny, but I really wanted it for my specials. I wanted to be able to create, lease specials online without having to go to the new car manager. And then,
Actually,
yeah, there's
Justin,
nothing worse than having to go to the manager to get the lease quotes.
But you said you were telling us the other day that your biggest aha moment was when you realized you didn't have to wait 15 days to get a special from the manager.
yeah, because they're all busy, selling cars, and then, you get days off, and it was really hard to calculate it. Like, I couldn't even teach myself how to do it at the time. You got 2 PDF forms that are shared somewhere. You got to get into the DMS. You got to make sure you get your money factor right. You got to make sure you got the term right. And if you're wrong on any of those, you're going to have that, customer that's going to say, oh, hey, wait a minute, I want it for that price. You messed up. And then you have to honor
So
it.
how do they calculate the pencils, the lease deals at the dealership? Do they do it raw form?
At the time,
we have a CRM.
We were doing it raw form.
Wow.
So the digital retailing tool actually kind of became our desking tool too, because then we would go to the tool, and that's where we would start. And then now we built a whole entire process around it, where we advertise the lease payment online. Then the customer sees it. Then they come to the showroom. The salesperson starts at that advertised payment, and then they work the deal starting at what we advertised it at.
That's a beautiful thing. And
the game now is let's see how much more we can save you, because Papa's has always been very, very transparent with their pricing. We try to show everybody what they qualify for rebates. We try to show everybody what they could qualify for. We're not one of those dealers that says, oh, hey, $10,000 off and you have to qualify for everything to get it. It was always how our pricing stack was built. So I kind of saw that this was a pretty good idea. And now it's basically just, sitting the customer down and saying, okay, well, are you military? Are you first responder? Do you have a conquest lease? Is there anything on this list we're showing you that we can save you more money?
That's the dream right there. It doesn't matter if you're one price or negotiable or whatever it is. It's just that you're consistent. So what the customer sees in the ad, sees on the website, and then gets in the showroom is the same thing over and over again. And what happens is exactly what you're saying. They stop negotiating with you and asking for discounts and putting up the fight, and they just say, okay, a lot more of the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
And one of the
So
things was, go ahead.
How are you getting the customers you mentioned earlier within your ads? So whenever you speak of ads, are you talking about like Facebook, Google, any third-party sites or anything? You said you're getting the payments into those ads, and I guess you're working with IllumiQuote. Or do you have like a data feed or something going on to be able to do that? And do you just do that all yourself in the back end?
Yeah, so we have a data feed that's provided to us that needs a little bit of manipulation in order to get the payment in there. So basically what I do is I merge two spreadsheets with the payments, and then I have my data feed, and then that data feed then gets loaded into our Facebook inventory catalog. And then I also have a vendor, which is Auto Lead Star. They were able to scrape our site, payments and all, and create automated Google ads based off of what we have on our site. So whatever we have on our site, payments, cars, VINs, will populate within Google exactly how much the car is going to cost and how we set it.
So even if you're using like a different plugin to display the payments, they're able to scrape that as well.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
The only thing I can't put payments is third parties, the auto traders, the car gurus, the cars.com, Carfax, we use all of them. They haven't figured out a way to interface the payments with any of this, nor I don't think they would ever want to, because, they want to generate leads for people. Mm-hmm. And if you got one dealer that's doing what we're doing, then why would you inquire on any other vehicle on any of their sites?
Have you found that putting the actual payments into the ads is changing your lead volume?
It's giving us a better quality of lead. Okay. We're not getting so much of the, well, hey, how much is this going to cost me type leads. Pretty much nowadays, anybody has access to their credit score, so they have pretty much an idea of where they are. Everything we have set up on our digital retailing tool, we can explain. So if someone comes in and they're like, well, hey, you're advertised this lease payment at $256 at 700 plus credit. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Customer, but you don't qualify for that. And if you clicked this button where your credit actually is, this is what your payment would be, which is what we're quoting you. So there's full transparency there as far as how that's set up.
And have you ever had, or I don't want to say ever have, but when it comes to accuracy, I know this is a big issue with a lot of digital retailing solutions out there. So they're trying to match up the payments that they're showing on the website or wherever it is to what the floor is actually doing. There's some problems there. So the accuracy, especially on leases, can be troublesome. Have you had many issues with that?
All of our numbers, when everything is working correctly, are within pennies. The only issues we have is when the manufacturer does different specials. So like they might say, okay, you get 0% on this, or you get employee pricing on this, but it only qualifies on retail purchase and not lease. And then there's really no way to figure that in on the digital retailing tool. So then you kind of got to find like a workaround. So for us, we just said, okay, we want all our lease prices to be correct, and we'll sell around the loan prices because anybody can figure out a loan price. Mm-hmm. Or they get tricky with it and they'll say, okay, well, this month only Gladiators have employee pricing, and there's no way to factor that. So sometimes we can do like a rate bump in the back end just to make the payment right, even though, because nobody ever really clicks on the summary button. So as long as they see that payment's correct, that's all we really care about. Getting the same payment showing the same payment on the computer as what we're going to show this customer when we sit down with them.
Well, that's interesting. So if it's really just a matter of the employee pricing versus a rate kind of incentive, I bet you there's a technological way to say, Justin, do you want to do employee pricing on Gladiators as your leading incentive this month? And maybe there's a setting they could do. You got I'm thinking about it now. I bet there's a way to do that.
It just turns it's how, we feed the data to the DR tool, and what we calculate our price on, that's what needs to change. And it has to be, correct in order to calculate the price. And sometimes like we'll have rebates that we can offset the employee pricing on. Luckily, it seems like our manufacturer only does it, in December. So we have a few more months to figure this out.
Okay. Well, there's a couple of ideas running around in my head. We should touch base on this a little later. See if any of these would work for you.
Yeah, we figured it out last time. It worked out pretty good.
Oh, good. All right. So the things you're doing with marketing, one of the most impressive things that I have seen you do since I've known you is you were one of the first to figure out how to make Facebook AIA work, and we're reaping some pretty cool benefits from it while you were way ahead of everybody. Um, this is going back a few months, so it might feel like years, but
yeah, but before there was an AIA product from Facebook.
pretty much.
So you had your own AIA product, huh?
Yeah, it was blood, sweat, and tears, late nights of setting up ads while everybody in my house was sleeping.
Sheesh.
What kind of attributable benefits do you recall having from being there and being there first?
Pre what they're talking about now?
Yeah.
So I used to do, at the time they would only I would do a carousel ad, and they would only allow me to run 5 vehicles. And those 5 vehicles were only able to link out to one URL. So at that point, I would create I would create a compass ad, and then I would go into my graphics, and I would take the logo that needed to be in there if I was going to submit it for co-op, and then I would create whether it was Memorial Day, football season. I would take like an idea or a graphic, and then I would somehow create like a border or a shell and put my compass behind that. And then I would upload it into Facebook with my one compass URL. And before digital retailing, I was sending them to obviously the compasses sorted on our main website. And then after we had DR and payments, I was sending them to the payment tool. Just because, what does everybody want to see? They want to see, what is this going to cost me? How much is this going to cost me? Like, hey, I don't have to be afraid to go to the dealer anymore to get a lease payment or a loan payment. I can do it all right here. And wait a minute, why are these guys even telling me this? So that's how that started. And then I kept doing that for a pretty long time. And I kind of came up with a system where, each week I would do a different set of vehicles, stuff we would be heavy on, obviously Wranglers and Rams for us sell themselves. I don't have to put too much thought into that. So if we're heavy on Compasses, we're heavy on Cherokees, we're heavy on Renegades, that would dictate what would go first. And I'd only run them for about 7 days, 7 to 14 days tops, because I didn't want, first of all, I was working with a little budget, and I didn't want to just overinflate everything. So after the Compass ad would be launched, it would run for like, 7 to 10 days. And then at the 10th day, I would go and I would run my Cherokee ad with a different set of graphics and still just the co-op logos that were needed. And then it would go to the URL. And that's how I was doing it before feeds and AIA, all manual.
Wow.
But what I was seeing was, the competitors in our area that were doing it, and they were in with, the big data companies when the feeds first started coming out. You would see like, an ad for a car dealer, and you'd have 150 vehicles that you'd scroll through. And it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to probably stop at 9 or 10 because no one's going to sit there for hours and scroll through the whole entire feed. And then what happens if the car you're trying to sell or the cars that you're heavier on are at the end of the feed because you have no control over where they show up. The computer tells them where to show up, and you could have, all of your heavy duty trucks show up first that have no relevance on even being on Facebook. Yep. So that's when I started thinking about, well, how do I do it? Let's start showing people, give them a little bit of taste and then let them click on it and then give them the full stuff as they're already engaging. So that's kind of how I engage, the lower funnel people without big data.
Were you able to run remarketing campaigns back then? People that, visitors from your website?
Yeah. So we had a company, and we still do, they do the retargeting using the Facebook Pixel.
Okay.
So, and we do that to kind of, eat up some of our PAP dollars, because we have to use certain vendors for certain PAP dollars. And in order to be 100% capacity and efficient with the PAP stuff, you just have to pick somebody.
How are you targeting who you were going to put that ad in front of back then versus how you do it now?
I do it the same exact way, pretty much.
Okay.
And this is going to be a shocker to most people, but I just do a 25 to 30 mile radius of the dealership.
That's it.
Well, there's a key thing that you
come on now. So many services out there that they got this secret sauce.
No,
no secret sauce.
What Justin's doing, and I'm not sure if y'all picked up on this, but he's talking about how you engage shoppers in different parts of the funnel. And one of the things that most ad agencies do, and I was definitely guilty of it when I was a dealer, was making a single, we're at the end of the funnel, you're here, you're going to buy a car, you're touching anything we do. So I'm going to throw every car I have in stock at you. I'm going to, everything like that. And set it and forget it and let it do its thing and yell at a vendor, whatever it is. But he's thinking of things a bit different. So he's thinking, if you heard him say, when we're advertising on Facebook, I'm not throwing my entire inventory. I'm doing the things that we're heavy on. I'm doing a handful of them. And making sure that the person who's clicking in isn't getting bombarded with a bunch of crap. They're getting something that's highly relevant. And that's the key differentiator, I think, in what Justin's doing. It's not that he's getting targeted in who he's going after. It's just that he's delivering a message that's right.
How do you know the message?
That's not easy to do.
Is right. How do you know the message is right if you're just hitting everybody within a 25-mile circumference?
Well, that's when I go to my CRM and my sold log, and my sold log tells me that my message is right.
That's a great answer.
And I know that this Saturday we're going to have people waiting in line to talk to a salesperson.
Uh-huh.
And it's not all from Facebook. It's not all from Google. Collectively, what we're doing from a whole marketing campaign is working to do all of this. But it's simple. You catch the people's eyes with a snazzy graphic, President's Day, you can run a flag. Maybe you put like a little cartoon character on there. I'm good for things like that. And then, you show them something that they want to see. You put something in front of them that they want to see, and you be transparent about it. Like, how do we know? So everybody knows that when people advertise like national offers, $179 a month, like you're never going to get that.
Correct.
Who in their right mind puts 10% down on a lease? I haven't seen
hopefully
really
nobody.
Yeah, so they
no one with a brain.
They advertise 10,000 miles down, $179 a month, plus tax, title, registration fees, dealer fees. Every dealer has their own types of fees. Whether you're in New York, New Jersey, you could have a dealer prep fee for $3,000. Like, who knows? It all depends on what your DMV, states for your laws and what you can charge and what you can't charge. So I took all of that in my thought process, and I said, well, instead of having the people come into the dealership and saying, well, I want this for $179, knowing that there's no way they could ever get it. Because even if you sold it to them at a loss and factored in tax and your fees, you're still not at $179. So now we're showing them the payment of what it really could be. And then we're also showing people that, let's just say, there are probably a good set of people out there that may think that they can't afford a Grand Cherokee. They're just like, holy crap, it's a $45,000 car. I really like it, but it's just way out of my budget. And then all of a sudden they see, holy crap, I can lease this for $329 a month. Like, I might be able to afford that. So now,
how do you get through to the customer, because they are so used to knowing that that's a lease payment, and chances are they got to put X amount of down in order to get to that. Do you have some type of content, some type of verbiage that you use so the customer knows this is the actual payment with tax and tags included?
The verbiage for the ad states, all lease payments are 12,000 miles a year with $3,000 out of pocket. Tax, title, registration fees are all included. So as long as you're truthful with your input, you can have it for this price.
How do you think that goes up against the local average or the regional advertising? So Jeep's, local Jeep's got the payment at $199, and they're advertising that strong in the area. But of course, your lease payment's $329, but it's a true lease payment. Do you worry about that they're contradicting each other, or do you worry about losing out to the $199, or do you think most customers see that, okay, you've got a lease payment for $329, but the region has it at $199 because of the content you've got built around it and your verbiage, you win.
Right. And we try to be the middle guy. We don't try to be the cheapest, and we don't try to be the most expensive. Okay. So within the competitors in our market, we are the middle. So we're not the cheapest. The cheapest would be, our guy down the street or the national ads. And then the most expensive is one of our competitors that's either marking up their rates way too high or doesn't have any idea that their digital tool is not working correctly.
That happens a lot.
The numbers they don't match. So as long as we stay in the middle, then we're good. And then we also give the customers a good experience. So we found that being transparent through this whole entire time in the last year, it really goes a long way. And
I believe that.
It's the same message.
Well, once, they see that payment of $329, they come into the dealership. You said earlier, your salespeople using an iPad, or are they using just sitting the customer down at their desk with the monitor and going over, the exact same payment? Are you using the same system that, if you're online and you're getting the payment through this process, if you come into the dealership, has the same look and feel? You're using the exact same system?
We still use Foursquare.
Okay.
It's a little old school. We still have the
You mean
Foursquare
when,
piece of paper.
but you're saying when you pencil, sort of do the final pencil, you're using Foursquare.
Yeah, Foursquare, and then some of the guys, depending on their level of technology, will show them. We have a couple computers in the showroom where we can bring guests to, and we'll just pull up, the DR tool right on the site, and say, hey, which one are you looking for? Here's the car, and here's the payment.
Okay, that's what I was asking. So the DR tool that you're using, IllumiQuote, you're using that on the showroom floor as well.
Right.
Okay.
That's your first pass, right?
Transparent on
comes out
Foursquare.
later.
Yeah. Yeah, so they'll kind of play around with it on the sales guys all have their own login, so they can be like, how much money do you want to put down, and they can kind of play with it with the customer, and then get them to commit hopefully before they even go to the desk. That's the goal.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you don't even need to use a Foursquare at that point.
No, but we still it's our process, and we just like to put down where the trade is and what we're giving them for the trade. Put down, what we're going to sell them for, what our discount is, what their payment is. We do the payment range so that we kind of, take care of it. And then at that point, it's up to the business office to sell, their products. And at that point, it's a true sale for the business office because, we're not quoting the payment with any, products in it.
Mm-hmm.
Justin, do you mind sharing like what kind of grosses you guys are seeing in a real ballpark number? I know you don't want to get exact with that, but
we're seeing a lot.
There you go. Well, I guess my question around that is, since you are displaying the payments, what type of results are you able to hold gross? Because you've got the customer in line, they're seeing the payment, they're coming into the dealership, they're seeing the same payment. You're going through the process. Are people, when they see that payment, when they see the online price and they come in, they see the consistency there on the showroom floor, how many of those customers are asking for more?
We don't get too many that ask for more. We do get a few, but that's just, the human nature. Everyone always tries to get,
Correct.
A deal. And then that's, it's the team's job to overcome that and sell around it. We don't give anything away. We hardly ever dip in the holdback. So, we sell almost everything at invoice because that's what everybody else does. Mm-hmm. And, we do very well with it.
So you're almost a one price store.
We use vAuto to do our pricing structure on our new vehicle sales. So,
okay.
If it's a Wrangler or a Ram or anything, we're priced, 500 over because that's what the market tells us to. And then everything else, we start at invoice. And then as the age gets on and on and on, the system will take $500 off or $1,000 off. But, we don't just sell a car for little money just to sell a car.
Gotcha. And then you've got those prices going through the DR tool, which is spitting out the payments, either, lease or finance. You got those same payments going into Facebook. You got those same payments going into your Google AdWords, and of course, website, third party, and all that good stuff. Man, dude, I don't know how you figured out all those feeds and payments and just be able to be consistent throughout that, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's one feed with a payment pretty much to all the places that I can control. Mm-hmm. And then vAuto feeds pretty much everybody else. And as long as our, vAuto pricing is correct, then our pricing is correct on all of the other sites, including our own. So every once in a while.
And you don't have the payments on the website. You've had to.
No, we don't.
Jump around a few compliance issues. Yeah, FCA is.
You can't have payments?
We have to use a certified vendor. And we built our process around all of this, 6 months before COVID hit. And then FCA figured out, 3 months into COVID that they needed a DR tool. And, we already
like
had
every
one.
other manufacturer.
Yeah, so we had it on our site through COVID, and then when they went to their certified vendor plan, we didn't make the cut, so they took it off the site, and then we went with their cheapest vendor, just so that we can check off the box.
But you
Are you using 2
implemented a
different
workaround.
websites?
So we basically have 2 DR tools, and
one.
I know that sounds crazy, but
so you've got one in the website, and then you've got a texting solution that you've used as sort of a workaround, right?
right.
Which is dive into that if you will.
Justin's really good at is figuring out a way.
You mean texting solution?
So right now you can text. I don't know if I forgot what the number is. I'll look it up. It's if you text the word payments to 77222, you will automatically get a link to our a Lumicode link to search your payments.
Okay, so it just lands them on an SRP.
Yeah, I did have it dialed in to the point where I could have a chat ask a couple questions and say which model are you looking for, what stock number, but I found that the customers don't know what stock numbers are, and they don't really know what models are either. So
yeah.
So it was screwing up the whole entire flow. Because I couldn't program the chat to say, if the customer types RAM before 1500, combined it and then send them to 1500. I can only sort it by 1500. And that's what a lot of people were doing with the RAMs. So then I said, well, let me just dumb it down and just send them the link.
Yeah, because it ends up being, you think you're trying to go after a better customer experience, but it ends up being overly complicated. And sometimes you're just better off starting, like you said, just simplify it all. Just, I don't want to say start them in the beginning, but just make it easier. Did you see, I guess you probably didn't test that long enough to really see a difference, but.
Well, the good thing is I'm looking at it now. So I have 158 subscribers so far that opted into this. So now I haven't really done anything
for text,
but now I have 158 people that I could send a message to at any point in time and probably have a high 90% open rate.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Text.
How often do you utilize that, and how are you getting your customers to subscribe to that?
It's only voluntary through that on the website. I haven't really promoted it yet. I'm still kind of trying. Do
you have like an opt-in box when your leads?
Once you text,
someone fills out
the software.
You actually have to go in and text. Okay.
So once you text the word payments to the 7222, your first message is you have now opted in to receive 5 messages is what I programmed it. Text stop to opt out. And then the next message is, for payments, click here. And then there's a little tiny URL that will land them on the payments page of the SRP.
It's so funny. We were doing something like this. I swear it was.
You were at mile 1.
Probably 10 years ago. I remember having this conversation with Kevin Fry about 8-10 years ago, and we were just talking about how it didn't work. It just didn't work back then. No one would text this to this. We went through this whole process of setting up texting solution on each used car that corresponded to the stock number. And if you text this to the stock, text the stock number to whatever the code was, it would land you right on that VDP. Just no one would ever use it. And it was so before its time. But now, it sort of makes sense. And I know it's over on the forums, but I know Todd Smith just published an article. I think it's five key ways to use text messaging. And it was funny because the first one is QR codes, which if anyone follows DealerRefresh, they know that we've got this old, I think it's Phil started that like, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. It was like one of the first threads on DealerRefresh around QR codes. I think it's like 100 pages long. But again, something that was way before its time, something we were discussing over in the forums. But now, we're seeing more and more QR codes. More people are using them. More vendors are using them. Are you incorporating anything like that?
I have no QR codes anywhere.
All right. Just curious. But it might be. I don't know. Maybe we should give it a shot. It might be a quick way. I mean, I've actually pulled my phone up and scanned the QR code on the screen.
We actually have barcoded inventory tags, which
okay.
I don't know. Now I'm thinking about it. So if we print an inventory tag, put a QR code on it, but at that point, I mean, I think the traditional dealership of people coming to shop and walk the lot, and they don't exist for us.
Maybe Sundays. Our lot's still busy from time to time. On Sundays, we'll see some lot lizards rolling through here.
But I mean, at that point, you can just pull out your phone and go to the website and see what they're asking for the car, and maybe you save them a step by letting them scan something on the car.
Yeah.
Well, and in your case, on the car, where it says,
in your case,
get the payments on this car.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. In your case, you're landing them on that quote page. Versus just going to your website. You're using two different tools. Ultimately, you'd rather land your customer on the IQ page and not the VDP of your website.
Right. I would ultimately like to have the QR code populate the magic link with the VIN of the vehicle, and then we can land them on the actual car and not the SRP.
Mm-hmm.
Those solutions are out there. They're out there.
Yeah, Jack is. You were talking to Jack over here yesterday, and he's been dying to build a QR generator. You'll love it, Jeff.
I just find myself using those damn things more often. Yeah, there are solutions out there. I don't think HomeNet has one, but you say you use vAuto for your inventory feeds.
Yeah, I know. I used to put. I think my vAuto stickers might have a QR code on them, or I'm able to put a QR code on them if I work it into the design.
Yeah. All right, we can get off the whole QR code thing. So have you been able to automate any of this? Because like you said earlier, it's, you've had to dive into this, everything. It sounds like you do everything at the dealership. You do all the marketing. You're up late hours at night trying to figure out, initially trying to figure out how do you get your inventory over to Facebook? Do you play around in Marketplace, or do you just stick with the AIA, or does AIA feed into your Marketplace inventory? And so what kind of results are you seeing around that?
Our marketplace is done by two vendors just because they do it. We have Carfax, which does their share of marketplace, and then they have their own chat integration on the marketplace listings that generate leads into our CRM, and then our chat company does the Facebook marketplace integration, because then they handle all the chats, all the Facebook messages, everything else. They generate the leads that go into our system, and then I use the AIA feed, and I link outside of Facebook to the VDPs of the vehicles when I run them. And I do that with the feed, and I'm almost there with automation, fully automated. I'm about 75% there with the feed. It's because the feed I get for the Facebook, it doesn't have the payments in it. So I have to manually put the payments in one of the columns and then upload it to Facebook, basically manually. I've worked with a few scripts on my home computer that I play with that do this for me. So now I'm working on, I have a script that downloads the file, puts it in a folder, and then downloads the other from the master file, puts it in a different folder. And then all I have to do is basically open, copy, paste, and then save it to my Dropbox. And then my Dropbox, Facebook goes and gets the URL, and that's where they get the feed from.
I know a guy who can help with that.
And now I have a program that I'm testing that is doing my Excel stuff for me.
Mm-hmm.
So once I fully automate it, I'll be able to do it from my own computer, and I won't have to pay anybody for it.
Jesus.
I saw a question. There was, who am I getting my Facebook feed from? My IllumaQuote has a URL. The digital retailing tool allows me to download the Facebook feed. And my website provider also has a back-end tool where I can download my Facebook feed file. And it just downloads as a CSV file, and you can just upload it in. I don't want to fully automate it, because then I'm taking out me of the equation, because the system's not going to know what we have. The system's not going to know what I want to promote, and the system's not going to know how to add, the cool graphics or stuff. So
yeah, you do some cool graphics.
I'd rather keep it to the point where, I ease up a little bit of my plate, but I'm still needed.
For sure. Well, so obviously they need you at Papa's, at the dealership there. Was it Chevy Jeep? Do you work with dealerships on the side as well? I mean, it sounds like you work for the dealership, but yet you have your own entity there.
I've always worked with.
Do you offer some type of service for other dealerships? Is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I would be open for consulting, and help. I've always this is my passion, so I've always I've been in the industry, on the advertising side and the marketing side all my life. So it's in my blood, and it'll continue to stay in my blood.
Well, we've got this posted over in DealerRefresh. So, I mean, if anyone has any questions for you, if they want to reach out to you, we'll make sure we get your information posted over there. Easy way to contact you. Yeah, because I don't know. I know I've already got some questions, so you're going to hear from me.
Yeah, I'm willing to help out anybody in the community.
Cool beans.
We appreciate that, Justin.
Anybody needs help with their FCA PAP stuff too, I have that formula figured out.
It's only a few thousand dealers that can use help with that.
Yeah. No,
you might want to hold that one tight and put a charge on that one.
Yeah, I'll hold that one tight. I figured out the formula to not expire funds.
Well, dude, congratulations on your success. And I know it's always, man, it's sweet whenever you find a platform that you can leverage earlier before everybody else and just really reap the benefits from it. And of course, that just gives you a head start ahead of everybody else, even a year down the road, because you've figured so many things out, whether it's just how to use the system or how to get in front of the customers, how to market to the customer. It's always a huge advantage point. So congratulations on that, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's fun being on this ride with you, Justin.
Yeah, it's definitely fun meeting you guys too. This has definitely been a good experience, and I wouldn't be here today without any of the the DealerRefresh community, the forums, just looking at what everybody else is doing, and if I can help share what I'm doing just a little bit, everybody can have some fun with it.
For sure. Well, definitely, like I said, we appreciate you, and we thank you for coming on board. And
thanks, guys.
I'm sure you and Alex will be in touch.
Give Justin another 3 weeks, and he'll have a whole new show of things he's figured out.
Yeah, I believe it.
I don't know what's coming next, though. I haven't really figured that one out yet. I think I'm going to continue to play with the Google stuff, and ultimately, I'm really trying to figure out how to eliminate the salesperson.
Well, you might not want to say that too loud at the dealership.
No, but if we can just not really eliminate the salesperson, but let's turn them into just order takers. Let's just have them stand behind the counter with a piece of paper and say, "Which one would you like today?" Okay, here's your information. Let me get you into the box.
Well, that's already working at quite a few dealerships out there, so I have no doubt you can't pull it off.
Or, who knows what would happen if, we ever get, COVID again, or we ever get shut down, or, you got to have some options.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen now. All right, gentlemen. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. See y'all later.
See you.